This video is made for version 1.0.1055, or the Twin Fuser update of Tribes Ascend. If Tribes is no longer in this version, this information may be out of date or no longer relevant. After the Twin Fuser patch, there's been a real problem with Sentinel stacking in public games, and this might be attributed to the nerf and chasing after the patch, but it also might be a shift just in the roles that people are attracted to. Regardless of why this is occurring more frequently after the patch than before, it's still making games incredibly difficult and one-sided to the team that has stacked Sentinels. In order to illustrate more effectively why stacked Sentinels in a public CTF game put the enemy team at almost insurmountable odds, we'll use an analogy. Sentinels are a lot like goalkeepers in soccer, or football for your EU folks. As the number of goalkeepers increases, it's exponentially more difficult to score a goal. And additionally, each goalkeeper has less space to cover and more leniency for their mistakes. This creates a problem where a Sentinel of mediocre skill compared to a similarly ranked player will play a disproportionately important role in their team. It's more important for one or two Sentinels taking shots to have a higher degree of accuracy because they're the only ones shooting, but it's less important to have a high accuracy when there are 3, 4, or even 5 Sentinels. Now you might say, how is having 4 to 5 of Sentinel any different than having 4 to 5 of any other class? Say, a Doombringer, or Technicians, or Infiltrators in the enemy base. There are several reasons why this argument doesn't work. One is that Sentinels have a larger effective range than any other class in the game. They can often control half or more of the map. Additionally, Sentinels don't require any coordination of any sort in a public game. Oftentimes, most pub Sentinels spawn, sit on a hill, and then shoot everybody down. But then you could say, well, there's other classes in the game that don't require coordination, such as 4 Jugs shelling the enemy base. But the problem with that is that 4 Jugs don't have as high a potential of area of denial as a Sentinel. A Jug can't kill a light across the map in 3 to 4 shots that arrive instantly at their target. Additionally, a Jug must be near, relatively, to the enemy base to be effective. A Sentinel can be adjacent or on top of teammates or base assets and still maintain a maximum degree of effectiveness to the enemy team. Well, now you could be saying that's all fine and dandy, but all those things are relative in a game and don't necessarily occur in which the way you've presented them, or that all those things are subjective and not everybody plays those roles in that manner. Well, okay, that's fine. We'll use another example to illustrate our point. Let's say that a capper is playing on Arx Novena and they're being fed up by being picked off by multiple Sentinels on the enemy team. So the capper decides to do a grav cycle back to front as a brute. Alright, all those things are completely plausible. A fully upgraded brute has 2,600 health and 120 energy. And for shits and giggles, we'll say that the brute uses the heavy shield pack for more protection. The heavy shield pack absorbs roughly 8 damage for every 1 energy and uses 10 energy for every 6 seconds it is active. In my testing of doing a brute back to front grav cycle cap on Arx Novena, from leaving the hill to reaching the aqueducts, I got an average time of 14 seconds. So if the brute is exposed for 14 seconds and has the heavy shield pack engaged the entirety of the time, he will expend 23 energy. Given that some in-air adjustments must be made in order to hit the flag stand, we will say that the brute expends half his energy. It's also worth noting at this point that even if the brute does survive past the aqueduct, he will have no remaining energy. So taking into account the drain over time from the shield pack, the brute will have 37 energy left, times 8 is 296 health from the shield pack. This gives our incredibly butt-frustrated capper a grand total of 2,896 health. These are the TTK, or time to kill, of 1 Sentinel with 100% accuracy, 2 Sentinels with 100% accuracy, 3 Sentinels with 100% accuracy, 4 Sentinels with 100% accuracy, and because no one's perfect, 1 Sentinel with 75% accuracy, and so on and so forth. For simplicity's sake, all Sentinels will be using the BXT-1 rifle, which has a DPS of 217. It's already quite apparent to see that our brute would be in quite a bit of trouble despite the fact that he has a very large health pool and traveling at roughly 208 kph. But what degree of accuracy must these Sentinels maintain in order to kill the brute before he passes beyond the aqueduct? Well, if there are 5 Sentinels shooting, they must maintain an accuracy of 19.065. 4 Sentinels would be 23.831. 3 Sentinels is 31.775. 2 Sentinels is 47.662. and a lone shear on the grassy knoll must maintain a degree of accuracy of 95.325%. And for comparison's sake, to see why our capper was so but frustrated, to kill a Pathfinder with 900 health and no shield back under identical conditions would be 5.924, 7.406, 9.874, 14.812, and 29.354, respectively, of course. And just as side notes, keep in mind that all these calculations are made accepting that every Sentinel would be in a position in which they have the brute in line of sight from beginning of the route to the very end. All these calculations are made off of DPS, not burst as they fire in-game, and all remainders are rounded off for simplicity's sake. But possibly most important to note is that all these calculations are made accepting that the capper picks up the flag, taking no additional damage from LD, Hoff, or other defensive assets, which in reality would most likely not happen. So what do all these numbers tell us in conclusion? Basically, a Sentinel stacked team, even if the Sentinels aren't of remarkable skill and mediocre in any way, are still incredibly powerful. But then you say, L2 play noob. Any offense with any sort of semblance of understanding of the game would eliminate Sentinels, and this many wouldn't be a threat. But keep in mind, we're talking about public CTF games, not pugs or comp play. Even if you recognize that Sentinels are shutting down your entire offense, a single infiltrator hunting down several Sentinels won't be able to maintain enough uptime to eliminate the effectiveness of a multiple Sentinel stack. But don't balance the game around pubs, or cater to terrible players, you say. And in this you would be completely correct, but that's another video entirely. No balance changes should come from public game Sentinel stacking. In order to reduce the effectiveness of the strategy, a system could be implemented in which only a certain amount of Sentinels can be active on a certain team at any time. Undoubtedly, when suggesting limiting play styles in a multiplayer game, a person will use the argument that I want to play how I want to play, and you or dev shouldn't restrict my choices and how I have fun. This argument works very well in some games, but falls short in team-based games. If a player decides to adopt a strategy in which they are damaging other players' ability to enjoy the game, in this case of Tribes Ascend 16 to 32 other players, they shouldn't be allowed to use such strategies. It's not that Sentinel stacking is an interesting shift in the meta or game strategy, it's that it's an abuse. Several Sentinels of lesser skill to comparatively similar ranks are capable of a much more pronounced effectiveness than other class combinations, with the average amount of communication in pubs taken into account. None. Unfortunately, in a game like Tribes Ascend, a class number limitation system isn't a perfect solution. Because weapons take so long to earn, a new player might have only unlocked items for one class, and if that one class is restricted, they're forced to go play something else where they have nothing unlocked. Obviously, it's not a perfect solution, but I'm sure Hi-rez could come up with something to limit the effectiveness of this strategy in pub CTF games. It's easy to dismiss away the problem as pubs are pubs, they're just for messing around. And if you want to play seriously with strategy, then you should go play pugs. But the problem with this is that the majority of players in Tribes Ascend don't play pugs, or even know of their existence. If there was a matchmaking system implemented in the game that was similar to the Mumble pugs, say, then this wouldn't be as big of an issue because people could just go into pubs and mess around. But currently, it's not in that state. Granted, this is something that will occur in slightly higher ranked lobbies, but until a matchmaking system is implemented where players can be divided by ranked and unranked, it's important to keep tribes fun and interesting for casual players. But once again, the solution shouldn't be class balance.